Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside the Issues, sponsored by the League of Women Voters, Birchville. My name is Maureen Scalia, and it's my honor here to have tonight somebody from the Hennepin County Library System who does outreach. And I must confess, I'm at the library a lot, but I really didn't know too much about outreach. So along with the audience, I'm going to learn a lot, I think. So my guest tonight is Susan.
Yep, I'm Susan Woodwick, and I work in the outreach department at Hennepin County Library.
And Susan, before we get into discussing the outreach at Hennepin County Library System, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to be where you are, whatever you want to say about yourself. I'd like to let the audience know a little more about you.
Okay, thank you. I've just been a librarian for 12 years, which I think surprises me when people meet me and see my gray hair. They're just surprised that it's been only 12 years, but I worked in a library starting when I was 15 and switched careers, and when I decided what I wanted to do next, I went back to library school, and I just feel very, very fortunate to be where I am.
When you figured out what you wanted to be when you grew up, huh?
Yeah, it only took me till mid-50s.
Good for you. Can I ask you what you did before you became a librarian?
Sure. I had a degree in health administration and
in health.
worked for a long time in a clinic for the low-income uninsured, and then I also worked in working with computers applied to healthcare. And just decided that libraries were always my love, reading was always my love, and so I was just very fortunate to be able to work for the Minneapolis Library System and now Hennepin County.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. How many years now has it been since Minneapolis and Hennepin merged? About 10?
Yeah, I want to say 10.
Okay. And I can't see that it's been anything but good. I think for both systems.
Yeah, it's just so fun to be part of a system that's 41 buildings strong and has just the range of services that we have, depth of collection, and just exciting staff and exciting patrons. It's a great place.
And I think I speak correctly. I mean, Hennepin County is one of the maybe larger library systems, or at least innovative, and I mean the staff shares with other library systems their expertise and experience is what I have found out over the years. Is that your experience too?
Yes, I think we're right around in the top 20. I'm sorry, I don't look at that all that time. But it was fun. I got to speak at the American Library Association convention a couple of years ago, and it was just really fun to have people from Florida and Alaska talk to us about the programs that we have and talk about ways that they could implement something similar where they are and adapt it to their system.
Their system, yeah. And again, I mean, it's all due to the taxpayers of Hennepin County.
Yes.
I mean, I think somebody very wise a long time ago decided that Hennepin County needed to make their library system a priority, and that's why we have it so great today.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
Okay. Outreach. Now, to me, obviously, outreach means you're going out of the library somewhere else. And you can let's start talking. You told me earlier that you had two main categories of the people that you're attempting to reach or do reach in your systems. Let's start talking about one of the two first. Take your pick.
Sure. I'll talk first maybe about corrections because it's a little more straightforward. So the focus in the outreach department is connecting people with library services who are primarily physically not able to get into libraries. And that may be because they're in the correction system or because they have disabilities often associated with aging that prevent their getting into libraries. So the corrections program, we bring materials to multiple places. The Juvenile Detention Center, through a librarian out downtown. So this is when a young person is picked up. They first go to the Juvenile Detention Center downtown. They then may be sentenced to spend more time in a corrections facility, and they may go out to the county homeschool
Oh, that's
which is
right.
out in Minnetonka. And the staff that I work with help select materials for that library, and then also book talk out at the county homeschool.
Okay.
And so then we just bring books to the students and say, this is one you might like for this reason or that reason.
And I would imagine, due to some maybe unfortunate situations in their life, they're not reading necessarily at their grade level or age level, so it's not just saying, oh, you're a 12-year-old, here's 12-year-old books, or you're 16, here are 16-year-old books. You kind of have to gauge the abilities also, is that
Yeah,
correct?
there's a wide range of reading levels and a really wide range of reading interests. And so it's really fun as a librarian. One of the things, you and I were talking earlier about how a lot of young people have a lot of interest to spend a lot of time on smartphones and with technology. But when people are in the correction system, they don't have that kind of access. So some of them really rediscover a love of reading. And so as a librarian, this is just the greatest thing in the world, to be able to bring some of the things that you're excited about that people might not have been aware of.
Yes, I can imagine that. I mean, it's, for some of them, it's either read or be really bored.
Exactly. And this is true for both the young people and the adults, because we bring materials down to the public safety facility, the jail downtown. Okay. We bring about 20 boxes of paperbacks every month.
20 boxes to
Yeah.
the jail.
Yeah, and what we do, we don't work directly with the residents there. We just work with carts of books like you see in the back room at Southdale, and there is 13 carts for men and 1 cart for women, and we're just sorting through as fast as we can and straightening them out, and then the corrections officers get them out to the residential areas.
So at least in the adult level at the county jail, you're not interacting yourself with the clientele there.
Not at the jail, but library staff do interact with the residents out at the adult corrections facilities.
Oh, okay.
So that when someone's arrested, they're down at the public safety facility, but then if they're sentenced, they might go to the county workhouse. And then we provide library service there every Tuesday. And people can place requests for items that they're interested in, and then we bring them back as quickly as we can, either gather them from the outreach collection or from throughout the Hennepin County Library System. We bring a whole lot of donated magazines too.
I was just going to ask that, because I would imagine there's also requests for magazines as well as books. And
Yeah.
found that true.
National Geographics have been very popular, which really surprised me. But the full range, we try to stock a list of about, I want to say, 80 titles of magazines. And these are magazines that either were donated or withdrawn from libraries that we take out to the adult corrections facilities.
So I've often wondered what to do with my National Geographics. I know Half Price Books doesn't want them. So that's a way for people like me who have National Geographics that they
Or
want.
any magazine. I'm surprised. It could be Woodworker magazine, Sports Illustrated, both magazines of interest to men and women, wide range of reading interests. So people can just take them to their local library and in a bag and ask that they be forwarded to outreach, that these are donated magazines. We have volunteers who cut the labels off so they don't have any identifying information, and sort them into title of magazine. And then the residents at the adult corrections facilities can ask for 5 items a week, and so each magazine would be considered an item, and we can get them, pass them on.
That just makes me so happy to see that, people that have gotten into trouble with the law, maybe just, like you say, rediscover reading, or totally discovered it for themselves. Maybe they weren't quote unquote readers in their youth, younger years, but this is a way for them to get back into the sync of reading again.
And the other thing is, it's really an opportunity. A lot of the people in the facilities are parents, and it's an opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about the value of reading with their children and early literacy activities they can do with their children and things that are available to them in libraries. And so, for example, one program we were talking a little bit about, Hennepin County has really been a leader. One of the programs that's been imitated around the country a lot, we call Read to Me. And when someone is in an adult corrections facility and they have a child in their life, they can attend a couple of programs to learn about the importance of reading to kids. And then we help them produce an audio recording of themselves reading the book. And then they can send, the facility sends the recording and a copy of the book to the child.
Oh, how nice.
And it's just been a really good way for people to stay connected while they're not able to interact a lot directly. And we know that kind of preserving those family connections is a big motivator for people, and those who have really strong family support are less likely to be incarcerated again. So we really are excited about this potential ability to support people maintaining those connections.
That is just really wonderful. I mean, like you say, it's a motivator factor for the person at the county or adult correctional facility. But I can only imagine how valuable it is to that child to be able to hear their parents' voice.
I've heard just some great quotes of like children thinking like their father was inside the
Inside the box.
and the numbers, Maureen, are kind of breathtaking. 1 in 30 children in Minnesota has had a parent incarcerated in their lifetime.
1 in 30.
So when you think of like a typical classroom,
true.
that's one child in every classroom. And then think about, and in some classrooms the percentages are a lot higher, and some they're lower. But I know I have been really fascinated to learn about the number of my neighbors who've spent time behind bars.
Yeah. And that's, I think the more a child can feel that not only are they part of their parents' life, but other people out there care about them too.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to a child.
Definitely.
Well, that is just phenomenal. I am so excited that goes on. I mean, these are the kind of things that most people never even knew, never heard about it.
Yeah, and you might not have any reason to know, but actually that Read to Me program's been going on for 20 years.
20 years already.
Isn't that fascinating that just the foresight people had to try that as a model?
Yeah, so at the correctional, I mean, these are not people that are hardcore or did something super, super very bad. I mean, we're not talking murders and rapists in this group.
Well, some people in the
they are?
adult corrections facility may have committed murder, but in general, I think, and usually we think of the county corrections facility as not being more than a 1 year
1 year,
sentence.
that's what I was trying to get to.
But occasionally it is longer.
Okay.
So we don't know exactly.
Yeah, obviously you can't know.
Yeah, but I was surprised to learn the average length of stay at the adult corrections facility is only 38 days.
Oh.
And DWIs are responsible for a lot of those incarcerations. I just didn't know.
No, that's amazing. So, and then the kids, you know, they're at the, what used to be called, or what did you say it was, the homeschool?
County homeschool.
It's still called the homeschool. So those are like, what, 10 to
20.
20, I was going to say. And so that's quite a population, too, that
You can imagine that's
large, you know, when you consider total numbers that go through in 1 year, it can be a large population that you're serving.
Yeah. It's there are 4 cottages at County Homeschool. Population's down right now. It can kind of vary with time of the year and things like that. But probably the larger numbers that we see are in the adult facility.
In the adults, yeah. Well, that's really neat. I mean, you talk about 20 boxes of books. I find that just an incredible number, and I mean, it's a good number, but it's quite a large number. And so Do you have a team of librarians then, or staff that kind of try to guess what people want then? I mean, tell me how the books are selected, if that's...
Sure. Well, you know, we're selecting materials for both the correction side and also for the at-home side. So the way we do it is we have 4 full-time employees, including myself, and then 5 part-time employees. And we have 1 librarian who takes the lead on corrections and 1 librarian who takes the lead on at-home service. And then we have a lot of other people supporting them in that work.
Well, let's back up and get to your
Sure.
other half of the
Sure.
job. I mean, we've talked about the correctional side. So tell me about the people that you're serving, the people that for whatever reason, and you can tell me some of those reasons, can't get to their local library.
Yes, so we're serving, sometimes it's a short-term reason somebody can't get to the library. It might be a high-risk pregnancy, so they're on bed rest. It might be a joint replacement, so they just know, you know, a little hospitalization, some rehab, and they'll be out and about in 6 to 8 weeks. And then sometimes it's a more long-term disability. So some of the people are living more independently, and they are served either by mail or a volunteer. We serve 700 people by mail and 100 with volunteers. And then we also serve people who are living in a more group setting, and we deliver a deposit collection every 3 months to 60 different residences that I think of as senior residences, but they're not 100% people over 55 or 65. We serve 60 of those as well.
Wow. Do you also serve like maybe mentally developmental delayed people in group home type settings? You know, they might be adults now.
Yeah. Our general perspective on that is that most people who are living in group homes who do not have disability that impairs their mobility are better served when they are able to come into libraries.
Oh,
so
those
some libraries
people probably they come like in a bus or something. Or
And so, for example, the library system has something it calls Next Chapter Book Clubs, which are led by librarians in libraries for residents of group homes.
Group homes. So that would
So
be
that's kind of the primary focus, but the idea is that being in the library is a really positive experience. So whenever we can, we want to make it easy for a wide range of people to come into our buildings. But what I'm doing is focusing on those folks who can't get in
absolutely
primarily.
can't get around. So we're really talking about assisted living places, I would imagine, would
Yes.
be one type of facility.
Yes, so assisted living, some are nursing homes, some are memory care, some have hospice services. And it's kind of interesting because the industry's changed. So we may have made an agreement with a place and it may have changed its kind of business model over time. And so we continue to try to work with those places because we always hate to cut off service. So that's been kind of interesting in adapting because the readers tell us what they want because they can place individual requests on top of what's in their deposit collection. You were asking me, so how do you know what to buy? On the correction side, we're handling individual requests all the time. And what we have is kind of a combined collection there. So we have our kind of back room collection, and then we also request things from libraries in response to requests. And we work with the Department of Corrections on that. And then our patrons who are primarily elderly, we produce a publication every 2 months that focuses on what's new. Since people can't come in and browse themselves, we create this 8-page publication that tells them what the library just bought that we think they will like. And we have rules for ourselves, like it's got to be available at least 75% of them have to be available in either large print or CD audiobook, because we're really concerned about the accessibility of the format.
That's true. I mean, you know, for many of them, the issue is, you know, they need a larger print.
Yes.
And you know, just over the few years that I've been volunteering shelving, my goodness, that collection is just growing every day. And then there's the whole books on CD that, you know, people that maybe their eyes are really bad and their hearing is the only thing that really can get them.
Yeah, I would say, I want to say in at-home services, about 10% of our patrons have to have either the large print or the CD audiobook. They can't do regular print at all. And it's a fascinating industry in terms of how it's changing. The other thing that we're hearing from people is that their risks aren't as strong. And so, for example, we got like this, the Bruce Springsteen biography was like this fat. It was this fat in regular print. In large print, it was like this. So you can imagine, it's like, so we're trying to be mindful of that. And if we get something like that that's so massive, we'll just send it on to other libraries where people with the strong risk can read it, and we'll focus on things that we think will work for the majority of our readers. And you know, that's an interesting thing about being a librarian. You know, there's going to be a wide range of reading tastes, and you're just kind of doing your best to serve as many as you can, and then if you need to, you do special requests to follow up.
And I can imagine, you know, having two elderly parents living into their 90s, and my mother needing memory care. But, you know, when she was still reasonably good, I wish we had thought about using a CD player for her to listen to books, because I mean, who cares if she didn't remember what she read the next day? But at least while it was playing, she would be able to understand and interact with it at that moment in time. So even for people in memory care, there is some value in the books on CD, I would imagine.
Definitely. The other thing is short stories can be wonderful.
Short stories,
for people
of
who are
course.
struggling with their memories, because it's like, it's complete then in and of itself. So we have found that to be a really useful thing, and we try to make sure people are aware of those as a possibility and that we get them in regular print. We're planning to have 4 in our next issue of the At-Home Reader. And then too, we've also been hearing from our readers, we staff an at-home line for people who get at-home service. So those 700 people getting individual service, and then the activity directors at the deposit collections. And so they call between 10 and 5 Monday through Friday to this special phone line. And so we're hearing what they request. And I think sometimes people get frustrated. There's been a trend toward a lot of changing perspectives and a lot of flipping back and forth in time that can get kind of old. So when we think about what do we want to promote to our readers, we try to be mindful of those kinds of things.
Sure, yeah.
And then again, there's a wide range of tastes, but for some people, they prefer more inspirational things. They kind of get overwhelmed by the number of thrillers and murder mysteries.
Yeah. And even poetry.
It can be very satisfying read because you can just focus on what is in front of you at the time.
And sometimes books of poetry are very tiny.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of number of pages.
Yes.
Not that the print is any worse or
Any
better.
easier to read.
But the book itself is light.
Yes, and very easy that way. Probably Mary Oliver would be a very satisfying read for a lot of people, I think. Yeah, I booked Talked County Homeschool last week, and I read this book that only had 21 poems. So yeah, that can be very, very appealing.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, I've got to get this message through, for even church outreach, pastoral care type people. you know, even social workers from hospitals. You know, there's a whole lot of people that need to know that this stuff goes on.
Yeah, it's just the potential for intellectual stimulation is really helpful for all of us throughout our lives. And a really exciting trend in the industry right now is because the library's e-reader capability is so much more user-friendly than it was when it was first introduced, that I think a lot of people are starting to turn to that, especially if they have vision challenges. And I think we're just at the beginning of seeing how that will make a difference in terms of what we're providing people.
Well, with the big numbers of baby boomers beginning to get into the retirement and beyond stageless. Yeah, I mean, personally, I have resisted the e-readers just because I like the feel of a book,
Yes.
and I can jump ahead and go back and reread, and it's so much easier than with the reader. But as we're talking, I'm beginning to think maybe I better get used to using one of those for the future, you know.
I would recommend it because there are just more materials available.
Oh, sure.
So, and it can be one of those things where if you're like me and you kind of like some of the popular stuff, you can then be flexible. Like, can I get it faster to read it on my e-reader or faster to read it in print? And when I talk to a lot of people, they might have one book going on their e-reader and one book going in print at home that's, you know, on the bedside table. And so that's another way to do it. But yeah, I recommend anybody who thinks they're at all interested to try it, and especially now too where we're more mobile, it's a little easier to walk into a library and say, I've got it on, I can't figure out how to get it off, or just anything like that. We can troubleshoot now while our seeing and hearing are as good as they're going to be for a while, and then we have developed the skill and we're more comfortable with it, and so then as my hearing continues to fade and my vision continues to go and my wrists get thinner, I've got more options.
Well, I can imagine for these group at the home that I'm thinking of somebody that maybe had a horrible accident and is paralyzed from the waist down or something like that. Obviously, e-readers are really good for them. I mean, so does anybody go out there and help them learn how to use an e-reader and connect with the county and all that?
We have librarians who can go and do like a group. There are often presentations at libraries where people can come in with their device and walk out with things loaded on it. And then we also do presentations at residences. I worked with about 5 librarians that went out to a facility and trained 25 people all at once. And of the 25, 5 had library cards that had expired, and they just got them all signed up and ready to go. And it's just, sometimes then you need a little reminder of like, can you just show me again what to do with X? And the library staffs have all gotten very comfortable with that, answering those questions. And we also have phone service called Ask Us, where people can call and ask about it too. It's just, I know myself, I found it challenging when I first started with it, but I feel, and I had worked, in the software industry, but it's gotten redesigned to just be so much smoother, and it really can make a difference. We did get a small grant where we took some of these e-readers out to some of the senior residences where we have deposit collections, and showed people like how to use, there's this great magazine application called Zinio where you can load all these magazines on there too. So I would encourage you to look at it just for that. But we found that we just taking it out there once wasn't enough, even if we explained it pretty thoroughly, that usually people need even just a few minutes, a reminder. And so we learned a lot about it. And so we decided it's not quite ready to be kind of full scale, but we're starting to hear from people more. We had a woman on the phone just a couple weeks ago who went to sign up for at-home service, and then it came out that she has an e-reader, so the librarian in charge of at-home services spent about 45 minutes on the phone with her, just kind of talking her through some things. And I don't know that she's actually going to sign up for service, because when the weather's really bad, she might just do that.
Yeah.
Because for some people, at-home service by mail is kind of challenging, because they have these teeny little mailboxes, and you know, they're fiddling with the keys. And so sometimes you have to just try different ways, different routes. But when reading's important to us, it's worth it. And it can be a great way to connect with other people. We did this, just want to mention, we did a survey with of people that we serve, and 96% of the people we serve said that they talk to other people about, family and friends, about what they read. So it remains a connector and a way to stay part of the community, and to have, I know for myself, when I'm feeling crummy, the weather's crummy, when I can talk about what I'm reading, it really gives me another way to connect with people.
Well, I think those of us who love books have found that at crisis points in our lives, or illness or something, books have the transformative power to literally take us out of where we find ourselves and transport us into either a more exciting world or a better situation. I mean, I find for me that reading is probably just about as good as medicine for depression.
Definitely, definitely. And they've actually done some research that says, in terms of isolation, that it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We've been hearing now for the last, 50 years how terrible cigarettes are for us, and we're learning how the isolation is terrible. So if that can help us bridge that gap to other people, what a gift.
Reading is the equivalent of...
Or isolation, I'm sorry.
Isolation, yeah.
Is the equivalent
Of 15 cigarettes.
15 cigarettes, so that, if reading can help be that bridge to help out of the isolation, both by giving us something to share, or if it's as a tool to participate in a book club, and then we need to leave our rooms and go down and join others, and then maybe we don't look at them quite the same once we've shared a little bit about ourselves in that situation.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of times a deposit or something like that I take it like at a, like assisted living place or something.
Yes.
Can you go into more exactly what it is and how it works?
Sure. A deposit collection is like a mini library.
Okay, so we're talking about a mini library.
And so there are these 60 senior residences all around the county where we bring 30 to 120 books once every 3 months. And when I started, we had a very specific recipe that we had, 3 fiction, 3 romances, 3 nonfiction. We had 15 books in every bin, and we made every bin by the same recipe, and including 1 audiobook. And then we had some staff turnover, and I looked at all the audiobooks, and I'd open them up, and everyone looked so neat. I thought, no one's using these things.
Yes.
So we decided they're still available by special request for those readers who want them, but it seemed like a waste to put them all in there if they were going to places where they weren't being used.
Right.
And so this collection will go there. I'm sorry. We're here in Bloomington. I'm trying to think of some of the facilities here in Bloomington. I know
Friendship Village.
I don't know if we have one in Friendship Village at this time, but I believe we did.
Okay.
I want to say Wilshire, but I'm not sure. But so our driver brings these bins, and then the facility puts the books in the library, and the residents bring them back so that we can, drop off another set. And then if they want a specific book that didn't arrive in that collection, they can speak to the activity director or the volunteer who manages their deposit collection, and they'll call us, and then we'll send that out in the mail. So we kind of have two systems going. We have this 90-day cycle of the deposit collection that resides there, and then we do a mail system to them for the special requests.
Okay, well, that's got to be wonderful for the people that are there.
Yeah, people really enjoy just keeping up with popular titles. A lot of them, their very favorite way is just getting the latest by their favorite author. And those of us who can get around easily, have that luxury of browsing the shelves, and so they have to focus on their favorite authors, or some of them refer to our publication as kind of like a catalog. They just kind of mark it up and let us know what they're interested in.
Oh, that's just fantastic. I can imagine that those people are so grateful. And, even for many people as they get a little older, they don't want to go out in the wintertime too much. And I suppose again, with an e-reader, you can get it no matter, what book, you can get it whenever. But do you find that some of your people where you do the mailings or the delivery, the numbers are higher in the winter than they are in the summer? It stands to reason that would be, but am I right?
Yes, and we encourage people because I think our knowledge of this is evolving too. So sometimes it's not like we get this label that we're disabled and it's necessarily a steady state condition our entire lives, but it can come and go. And then I spoke to one woman, a couple months ago. She was tracking down materials for her book club, and I thought maybe she was wanting to sign up for at-home service, and she said, "Oh, no, it's only 2 blocks. I can usually get to the library in my electric wheelchair." So people, I think, are very mobile, but then when the weather gets like it is today, and with the piles of snow, then it's another issue. And so we do have some patrons for whom it's seasonal, and that's because they can be relatively mobile when the weather is good.
It's much easier to get an electric scooter around in the summertime than it is in winter. There's no question. Is there still a bookmobile? Or did that?
Hennepin County does not do bookmobile service, but we're really thinking carefully about where are the ways that we can be providing library service in the community. And so we're thinking about that a lot and doing different creative things.
Okay. I just wondered, if that had totally gone by the wayside. I heard something about it a few years ago, and then didn't hear anything for a while, and so you're confirming that you're using other ways to get stuff.
To connect and get that material to people.
Yeah. Okay. I just had something in my head. Well, anything else that we should be talking about that you do that we haven't discussed so far?
Well, I'll maybe mention one of the things that we did was we get some money through the Friends of Hennepin County Library. So a couple of years ago, we purchased some book club kits that are available to anybody with a Hennepin County Library card or someone from the broader area who's registered their card with Hennepin County. And a book club kit has 8 to 10 copies of the same book, all in a bag. And so you can reserve them all at once and take them home, have them for 6 weeks. And we were able to purchase about 14 titles in large print. And
so, for heaven's sake.
Again, for those of us who are struggling with the bifocals and thinking about trifocals, large print can really make a big difference. And I want to say the most popular title so far in that set has been I Am Malala. Continues to be checked out, even though it was a couple of years ago that it was published. And one of the things we've learned is that our readers are interested in fiction and mysteries, but they're also interested in nonfiction, biographies, and history. We also got Dead Wake about the sinking of the Lusitania, and
yes.
Tom Brokaw's biography, because those are also popular. And then with the deposit collections, or the people who are served by At Home, we were able to use some of that Friends money to create some more collection that supports their book clubs, because we found that we could put a lot of staff time into tracking down, one audio copy, 3 large print, 2 regular, and so it seemed more efficient in our support of those groups to create a collection that was specific to their needs.
So are some of these seniors' buildings then, do they have like a book club within the seniors?
Yes.
Oh, how cool.
And some of them are led by residents, and some of them are led by staff. And I got to interview a woman a couple of months ago who is 100 years old.
100 years old.
And I interviewed her in June, and she had been reading about a book a week since the first of the year. I mean, she's been a lifelong reader, and they have an active book club at the facility where she lives, and I think they read 2 books. They meet twice a month.
2 books twice.
And it was fascinating. The woman I spoke to had been widowed for 40 years, and she said, "I've been alone but not lonely. I really think reading has made all the difference for me." And she described that her children are readers, and she said, "My son always has a paperback in his pocket." And I started doing the math, and I realized her son is probably in his 70s. And because originally when somebody says, "My son," and I just thought, what a great family tradition. And another woman that I interviewed recently too, you're talking about if somebody has an accident, she had, in her 50s, she had a couple of strokes and had surgeries. And she also talked about how she shares books with her children. And so I just think how it's such a wonderful gift we give our children, and then we as parents and grandparents reap the rewards for many years as we're able to communicate about what we read with our children. So we're growing our own little audience and support group for our reading habit. And I was really struck by the book club in the facility, how much they read. But one of the other things we've learned is that sometimes book clubs have to be adapted to where the readers are. And so in some facilities, it might mean that the activity director reads a chapter aloud once a week or something, and then they talk about it. When I went to one facility, it was kind of fun. They were reading Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a sunny afternoon, and as we were walking into this residence, there was a woman in a wheelchair sitting in the sun outside with a big green interlibrary loan sticker on her large print copy of Eat, Pray, Love. And I realized we got that for her. And it's just another way to kind of continue to explore the world. And that's a facility where those who cannot read either regular or large print gather in their chapel once a week and hear an audio version of what will be discussed the following week. So the volunteers and staff at buildings are very creative about thinking of ways to make the format work for the individuals involved. And I'll just mention very briefly one other thing that a couple of librarians are doing in Bloomington is they've created kits that they call Let's Talk About kits that they take into senior residences that are more oriented toward discussion. So one's about drive-in movies, one's about going up north, one's about the Rat Pack. And so they bring a short story to read, they bring some music, and then they bring some photographs to talk about. And so those are really interesting to people with memory loss to be able to talk.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is just going to help people maintain cognitive abilities for as long as we can possibly stretch that timeline out. And how wonderful it is for these people that are beginning to lose cognitive ability, to have a way to still be in touch with the love of words and
Yeah, and to be able to kind of share those stories
and
of our
talk
lives.
about it. Yes.
So when this one librarian brought the Going Up North kit to a place, one of the residents brought a book that her friend had written about their experience where she had fallen in the ice up north and got out. And those are the kind of stories that sometimes we need the book or the program as a vehicle and an opportunity to tell our stories. They don't just kind of come out naturally.
Yeah, it's sometimes if the memory is triggered, the recall or the recognition is better than just recalling it off the top.
And it really, I think, does create a community and a bond and a magic. And so it's a really great benefit of the library system that is kind of so much richer than just getting the materials in one person's hand, that it can create these sparks. We talked a little bit about the corrections, and maybe I'll just mention one other story. Librarians were out last month, and one of the books that they talked about was about being hearing impaired. And the students got so excited that they wanted to get together as a group and discuss this book. And it turned out one of the students had 2 hearing impaired parents, and one of the teachers will teach all the students in this group some American Sign Language.
Oh.
So these are students who this isn't a corrections facility. This is students who have chemical and mental health challenges. And it's another program I work with where librarians go in and book talk. But just kind of, we just never know, because we think that people have one thing in common, which is these chemical mental health challenges. And it turns out they can get excited and connect with another community and build community themselves in a way that we didn't envision.
No, it's kind of like the stone thrown into the pond. We don't know where the ripples will go.
Definitely, definitely.
How old, I mean, has this been going on for a long, long time, or is this just really snowballing now, these kind of services? Or did libraries do this for a while?
Great question. It's actually, I realized it was the year I graduated from high school, 1971. Hennepin County started doing at-home services.
Oh, okay.
And it had been done also in the Minneapolis libraries, but we found that we were doing it kind of on an individual basis out of individual libraries. So after a while, we kind of centralized it, and so that's why normally we then work out of Ridgedale to do it in a centralized way. And so, we're also then thinking about, with the number of us baby boomers like myself aging, what does that mean? Because we want this to be a sustainable service. And so we're excited about the possibility of some of the technology, like the e-reader, because we're thinking every book that someone can download themselves, the Hennepin County Library System isn't paying postage to mail it and mail it back. So
that's true.
So I'm trying to think about kind of long-term sustainability, because we know that we're at the point where we're soon going to have more of us over 65 than we're going to have kids in school. So we want to make sure that we've thought it through to provide the best possible and deepest kind of most varied services to all of our citizens or residents.
Yeah, we really have to think. I know I was on the Planning Commission, and one of the things I had to keep reminding people that we're not building the city of today. That's already outdated. And we have to keep focused on what's it going to be like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and that's what we plan for. And I never thought about it that way. There's going to be more of us over 65 than in school. That's kind of a frightening statistic in some ways. But you also said you use volunteer staff in some of this program. What do the volunteers do?
So some of the volunteers just help us like process some of those materials, but some of the volunteers work one-on-one with someone who would like to receive library materials. There's one volunteer based out of Washburn Library, been providing at-home services for over 30 years.
Oh my God.
So if you think that a lot of us don't have a single paid job for over 30 years, that this volunteer has been doing that same role for 30 years.
Oh, how wonderful.
And so I think volunteers find it very rewarding. There becomes some personal connection, but the focus is on the delivery of library materials. And as you were saying, there will be more folks, there are more of us over 65, but we are also a rich source of volunteers'
Yes.
energy and caregiving. So it's an exciting time
Yeah.
to be a baby boomer.
Oh my goodness. So you're really, I'm trying to think of any population that you're not reaching, and I really can't think of anything. I mean, as you look at all the things you can be doing or could be doing, is there an area that you would like to get more into, but either due to staff time or money or both, you're not able to reach them? Is there a group of people you think you're not reaching that you maybe think you should be reaching? Or are you pretty confident that you're really getting to almost everybody that needs you?
I think it's always a challenge to get the word out.
So
And it's like you almost don't know who you missed till you find them later, and they say, "Well, I've never heard of you." And I think some people are just more used to being in and out of their library and making the most of that, unless some of us, like me, accumulated horrible finds and thought we would find a wanted poster with our face on it when we walked in the door, so we found it really scary. And so I think some people really got out of that habit and also had a lot of family responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people rediscover that love, and sometimes they need a friend or a relative to let them know that the library can be a resource for that, because sometimes we take the path of least resistance and feel like we have to buy things. And so
Yes.
sometimes we just need that little nudge, and we don't always know who we're missing, and so we want to just be mindful of that. And I think different subgroups of our population are more likely maybe to move to group settings, so that's where we have a deposit collection. But the people we most likely miss then are probably in those more individual settings. And
Yeah.
different cultures have more of a tradition that way of where their older generations live and stuff.
It's something. I've been involved with the Meals on Wheels program in Richfield for, 30 years maybe. And, as I think about the people that I meet there, they're homebound. They don't see very many people during the day. And, it's almost wonderful. I'm wondering, I'm almost thinking of talking to the board and asking our coordinator if we couldn't put some little piece of paper, do you know that you can get books delivered to your home, or somebody come and show you how to use an e-reader. I think those of us that are still able to get around and go, and many of us are busy, we have different volunteer portions of our life, it's something to keep in the back of the mind and say, am I dealing with a group of people that could be served that don't know about it?
Yeah.
And say something or distribute materials.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And yes, I think it's kind of like, if my mission is to serve the isolated, how do I know I failed to reach them because they continue to be isolated? And I think sometimes too, you get so busy. I'm just really wowed that you made that connection, because I know sometimes it's hard when you're focused in one thing to see where the connections.
Yeah,
can
it's just
be.
all of a sudden, because I'm talking to you, that we can, I think all of us in our lives probably know a segment or even individuals that could be greatly served by a program, but we didn't know, and most likely they don't know either.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like when things get challenging, you have to focus on, getting food in the house, getting your medicines, things like that, and then more and more things that could give you pleasure become
Yes.
take a lot of energy. And so, people are just weighing, what can I manage?
Yeah, and an ability to feel a part of the world even though you can't be in the world, so to speak. It's, I think, so good. And then just the matter of being a good citizen. I worry about people that don't read at all. I just worry about them. As a member of the League of Women Voters, one of our great focus is you can't know what you're voting for unless you've informed yourself, unless you keep up on topics, unless you read history to see what happened in the past. I think the library goes very well with the League of Women Voters in that sense. But keeping these people involved in the love of reading and the love of words and the love of books, what a mission. I'm just very grateful that there are people like you doing it. It's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. We feel very fortunate.
Yeah. And I think we're almost maybe within a minute of being done. Anything else? Any final words you want to leave with our audience? Or?
No, if they're always welcome to call the at-home line, 612-543-8850, to get more information about at-home services if they think that would be a fit for them.
And from the website, you go from the home page to...
On the far right, where it talks about the library and things like that, about the 8th item down is outreach services, and that has that phone number again. Or to call any library and say, can you give me the number for outreach? They can do that.
Okay. Well, it's time for our program to come to an end. And I really want to thank my guest, Susan Woodrich, who's taken time out from her busy schedule, I'm sure, to be with us tonight to talk about outreach services provided by Hennepin County Library. And to my viewers, if you know somebody that could find some value in this kind of services, if they can't make the phone calls, please do so for them, because I probably said it too many times already, but reading truly is a gift, and books are a gift, and the ability to do that is wonderful. So to my viewers, good night, and thanks for watching.